Glad to have you in Middle America. You bring up Middletown, Ohio. It's a lot like La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's not
Very
unlike
similar.
my hometown of Sherman, Texas. All about 40 to 50,000 people,
Yep.
manufacturing towns. And there's a lot of excitement today, but it hasn't always been that way, to your point. Whether or not
That's
it's been job loss, an opioid crisis, a cultural malaise, and a sense of loss of purpose, I believe, is deeply rooted in what's happened to Middle America. What do you think that's done to America?
Well, I think it was very bad for our country, and all these problems are very connected, right? You take a dad who's got a good middle-class manufacturing job, is able to support, a family, a couple of kids, and then that job disappears. Well, now the family is feeling financial stress that it wasn't 10 years ago, it wasn't 20 years ago, so sometimes families dissolve in the wake of that. That stress affects the kids. Some of those people turn to drugs, and all this stuff is very connected. And if you look at what the president is trying to do, it's also all connected. And I think that it's why it's leading to this very early days of an American Renaissance, because you bring jobs back, you give people hope, optimism, you give them a little extra money to spend in their pocket. Maybe some of those people go and start a business, but then simultaneously we're focused on the southern border because we don't want this poison to come into these communities and destroy people from fentanyl and other related problems. So I kind of think in the same way that America's decline was a problem of interconnected issues, I think this American Renaissance led by the president is also interconnected, and we're trying to work on all these different problems, because if we solve all these problems, it leads to a virtuous cycle.
Well, the big, beautiful bill is big. It is interconnected as well.
It is.
What would you say to the people that are sitting right on the other side of this curtain? By the way, there's a beautiful bridge being built right on the other side of this curtain.
Yep.
But what would you say to them about the big, beautiful bill and how it begins to address the depth of what you just laid out, those problems?
Well, I'd say, look, it's all connected. We're going to talk to, obviously, in a little bit to the crowd that's assembled. We're going to say a few things. Number one is you've got the biggest amount of money for border enforcement that we've seen in our country's history. Those criminal cartels that are bringing the fentanyl into places like Wisconsin that are killing people by the bushel, we are now going to war against those cartels in a way that we've never done before because of that big, beautiful bill. We've also got incredible working families tax cuts to reinvigorate the economy here in Wisconsin. So you've got the child tax credit going up. You've got no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. 27% of Wisconsin workers worked an overtime shift in the last year. 5% of Wisconsin workers rely on tips, either in part or entirely. So this is going to mean a lot more money in people's pockets. And of course, if they got more money in their pocket, they can spend it on American-made products. And that's the final point, is the President of the United States, this is not the main part of the working families tax cuts. We're going to make it easier to save and invest in the United States of America. The tariffs, of course, are separate, but it's all connected, because if we make it easier to build things in the United States of America, we're also making it harder to build things overseas. This generation of failed American economic policy, where we rewarded companies for putting factories in Mexico or in China or somewhere else. No, we got to reward people for putting factories right here in Middle America, right here in Wisconsin, employing good American workers to make great American products. That's the whole purpose of President Trump's economic agenda. And again, it's already bearing real fruit, but it's going to, I think, lead to a great American Renaissance over the next 3 years.
I saw this morning, that in 74 out of 100 metro areas in the United States, half of all starter homes are unaffordable for the average American worker. You're the first millennial vice president. You have personal experience with people of this generation not being able to make that leap, that first economic leap into adulthood. Home ownership. Is the system rigged?
Oh, the system is absolutely rigged. I mean, look, you go back to the 4 years of the Biden administration, from 2021 until 2025, when we took over, the average price of a new home doubled. That's 100% increase in 4 years. That priced millions upon millions of young Americans out of the housing market. Now, there's a little bit of good news here, because even though we've only been in power for about 7 months, you've already seen home prices flatten off a little bit. They've gone up, depending on what metric you believe, about 1%, maybe less than 1%. That's a big, big improvement, but there's so much more that we got to do. And this is why the President of the United States goes after Jerome Powell for being too late, because, of course, the housing crisis in this country is really two things. Number one, that the prices are too high. We've made some progress on that. In some ways, more importantly, the interest rates are too high. So even if you can afford the top line dollar value of a home, if the interest rates are way too high because the Federal Reserve isn't doing its job, that also makes the American dream of home ownership unaffordable. So we're really working on both of those things. We got to lower interest rates, we got to lower housing prices. We've made, again, progress, but it's early, and we realize there's a lot more work to do.
Absolutely, the system is rigged. You've been a longtime critic of the system, but now you're the Vice President of the United States, and one could argue you are the system. So how do you fix a rigged system?
Well, we inherited a rigged system, but I think that in 7 months we've already made a lot of progress to fix this. If you go back to, again, 100% housing price increase in 4 years under Joe Biden, we've already seen that level off under Donald Trump. Now, to fix the rigged system, you ask that question, you got to understand the root causes here. Why did housing get so unaffordable for American citizens? Two big problems. Number one, I already talked about, interest rates were too high. Number two, you had way too many people in this country who were competing against American citizens for scarce homes, and that's the illegal immigration problem. Why has housing leveled off over the past 6 months? I really believe the main driver is you've had negative net migration into the United States for the first time in 60 years in this country. You cannot flood the United States of America with 20, 30, 40 million people who have no legal right to be here, have them compete against young American families for homes, and not expect the price to skyrocket. It's as simple as supply and demand. You increase the demand, you're going to increase the price. And the final thing I want to say here is we're working on issues right now in the White House every single day, because we want to make it easier to build homes too. Because in the same way that getting illegal aliens out of this country means fewer people competing against young American families, we also want to increase the housing stock in this country by making it easier to build. So we're working on all this stuff, but man, we got to be honest. The system was rigged against Americans, especially young Americans, for a very long time. We're making progress to unrig it, but it's going to take some time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.